Beijing, May 25, 2026. A catastrophic wave of relentless rainfall has plunged Beijing into one of the most severe flooding disasters in recent memory, paralyzing major sections of the Chinese capital and exposing the dangerous vulnerability of its infrastructure under extreme weather conditions. Days of non-stop torrential rain unleashed widespread flash floods, landslides, and infrastructure failures across both urban districts and mountainous regions surrounding the city. Entire neighborhoods were rapidly transformed into disaster zones as roads disappeared beneath violent brown floodwaters. Vehicles were swallowed whole, and residential compounds became isolated islands surrounded by fast-moving currents carrying debris, mud, shattered concrete, and uprooted trees through the heart of the capital. The northern districts of Miyun, Yangqing, and Huairu suffered some of the worst devastation as Beijing's mountainous terrain funneled enormous volumes of rainwater downhill with terrifying force. Torrents crashed through valleys and low-lying communities, overwhelming drainage systems, river embankments, and flood barriers that were unable to cope with rainfall of this intensity. Entire roads collapsed beneath rushing water, while landslides buried highways under thick layers of mud and rock. In several communities, floodwaters surged to chest height within less than an hour, trapping residents inside homes, apartment complexes, underground garages, and commercial buildings. Witnesses described scenes resembling a large-scale disaster film, with darkness, sirens, floating vehicles, and rescue teams struggling to move through submerged streets while heavy rain continued pounding the city without pause. Beijing's transportation network suffered widespread paralysis as subway tunnels flooded after water poured through underground access points and ventilation systems. Major expressways became impassable rivers, filled with debris and stranded vehicles. Sections of highways connecting Beijing to neighboring provinces were shut down entirely after landslides destroyed road surfaces and blocked tunnels. Public buses were abandoned mid-route, while rail services experienced severe delays and cancellations. Emergency responders faced enormous challenges reaching stranded residents because many access roads had either collapsed or vanished beneath deep floodwaters. Power and communication systems across large portions of the municipality suffered major failures as substations flooded, and transmission infrastructure sustained severe water damage. Numerous villages and suburban communities experienced prolonged blackouts, leaving residents without electricity, internet access, or mobile communication during the height of the crisis. Telecommunications providers rushed to restore service while emergency teams relied on temporary radio systems in isolated regions. Residents trapped inside dark apartment towers reported hearing explosions from electrical transformers as water levels continued rising around residential compounds. The Miyun Reservoir, one of Beijing's most important water control systems, climbed toward historically dangerous levels amid the relentless inflow. Emergency discharge operations were launched to reduce pressure, but the releases added even greater strain to downstream rivers already nearing overflow conditions. Hydrologists warned that Beijing came dangerously close to a cascading flood emergency in which interconnected waterways and reservoirs could have failed simultaneously under the unprecedented volume of water. Secondary drainage basins and stormwater systems across the capital proved severely inadequate against the scale of the disaster, renewing criticism over rapid urban expansion and aging flood control infrastructure. Urban districts including Haidian, Shijingshan, and Changping suffered extensive damage to residential and commercial infrastructure. Parking garages became underwater traps, filled with submerged vehicles while floodwater burst upward through sewer systems and drainage grates, flooding intersections from below as rain hammered from above. Shopping centers, office towers, warehouses, and underground facilities were evacuated after water surged into lower levels. Newly developed suburban districts appeared especially vulnerable, with widespread reports of overflowing drainage systems, collapsing pavement, and severe sewage backups contaminating floodwater. The disaster quickly escalated into a regional economic crisis as logistics hubs, industrial parks, and supply chains across the Beijing metropolitan area suffered major disruption. As waters slowly begin to recede, the true scale of the destruction is only beginning to emerge, leaving millions facing a long and difficult recovery from one of the capital's most destructive flood disasters in modern history.